Hola chicos, Professor Street aquí con otro video. Este video es sobre los verbos de AR, AR y ER, ¿no? Entonces, we're going to do today a video about the AR, ER, and IR verbs. I decided to group these two verbs, these three groups together because they're so fundamental and they are very much connected, right? You guys know I'm big on interactive learning and conceptual learning and kind of going along with me to try to create meaning as we go instead of just teaching at you and explaining things. So let's get with it. Let's try to read this little dialogue. So it looks like we have a server, a conversation between Horacio y Beatriz. So what does Horacio say? ¿Trabajas este semestre? Sí, normalmente trabajo de 6 a 9 de la noche. ¿Y tú? No trabajo, pero estudio mucho. Soy un come-libros. Comer, to eat, books, bookworm, right? Come-libros, right? So which of the two students has a job? Right? So what does Beatriz say? Normalmente trabajo de 6 a 9 de la noche, right? So it's Beatriz, right? Does this person work 3 hours routinely or rarely? Well, she says she works de 6 a 9 de la noche, right? So it seems like she works pretty much every night, right? I totally relate. I had to work my whole way through college and graduate school as well. So what ending does the verb have when Horacio asks Beatriz whether she works, right? Trabajas, right? Remember, tienes, tango, tienes, right? You. What ending does the verb have when Beatriz answers Horacio's question? She says trabajo, yo trabajo. Horacio says no trabajo, pero estudio, right? So these conjugations are super important. Let's get to the AR verbs, right? So remember, we have our verb chart. We've seen this before. This is how the verbs are organized in Spanish, right? First person, second person, third person singular, first person, second person, third person plural. Singular on the left, plural on the right, right? They're equivalents, right? Yo tomo, tomas, toma. Tomamos, tomais, tomen, right? So the present tense as a category, all the present tense, ER, IR, and AR verbs, they have several different meanings, right? So the most common one is just the present tense on things that occur normally or what's going on right now. Trabajo los lunes y los martes, right? So that's typically saying, I work on these days. It might not be Monday, it might not be Tuesday, right? It's more abstract, right? Yo trabajo todos los días. Trabajo en mi oficina right now. This brings us to the second one. I'm working in my office right now, right? The ing. So the regular present tense can mean what's going on right now. There's another expression to get more to the effect of really right now, but we'll save that for later. Another great thing about the present tense in Spanish, which I think it makes Spanish a little bit easier to learn than other languages, is because you can use the present tense to talk about the future. This is super big, guys, because you could say you don't need to learn the future tense right away. You could get very proficient without ever learning the future tense. Hablo con el profesor mañana. See, mañana marks that I'm talking with the professor tomorrow. So we don't even need will talk, etc. There is a future tense, and we'll get to that at some point in your other classes. So some important AR verbs, right? Contestar, to answer. Descansar, rest. Escuchar, listen. Estudiar, we know. Hablar, we know. Llegar, very important, to arrive. Mirar, to watch or to look at. Participar, that one's easy. Pasar, to spend or happen. Practicar, that one's easy. Regresar, to return. Terminar, finish. Tocar, to touch or to play an instrument. Tomar, to take or to drink. Trabajar, to work, right? So practicing creating our little sentences here, we could see the subject. Muchos estudiantes trabajan por la noche. It's important to include our subject with muchos estudiantes because the verb trabajan could be the ustedes form or the ellos or ellas form, so the subject is good there. right? We need it. But in verbs where the subject is obvious, like yo estudio por la noche, we don't need it then, right? Yo estudio por la noche can only mean I study in the afternoon. So tú, ¿cuándo estudias? ¿Cuándo estudias? Yo estudio por la mañana y por la tarde. ¿Cuándo estudias tú? Very good. Okay, before we do the context, a little reading with ER and IR verbs, let's get the ER verbs out of the way, right? So all verbs in Spanish, even the new ones, there's verbs that are added and people create just like in English, like to Google. That would be in Spanish, googlear, right? And I've even heard people say like to Facebook someone, Facebookear, right? So every verb has AR, ER, IR endings, right? No matter what, no matter how old they are, new, etc. So the ER verbs, again, we see our category, first, second, third, singular, first, second, third, plural on the right, right? Comer, to eat. Como, comes, come. Comemos, comes, comen, right? So we'll see the conjugations for the IR verbs are super similar with only a little differentiation. Some common ER verbs are aprender, to learn, correr, to run, leer, to read, comprender or entender for understand. There's a couple verbs for that. Okay, so let's get to our little context. So look, what do we see? Use as much background as we can. Again, we have Horacio and Beatriz. Looks like one of them is at a computer with a crítica de política, some sort of political criticism, right? So Horacio says, ¿lees blogs a menudo? Sí, y también escribo un blog, crítica de política. Leo tu blog todos los días, es muy interesante. So what kind of blog does Beatriz write? She writes a crítica de política, so political criticism, right? What does Horacio think of her blog? He says it's muy interesante. We know this because he says, leo tu blog todos los días, right? So what endings do we see of when the subject of leer y escribir is in the yo form? Right, it's in an O, escribo y leo. What ending is used when leer is in the subject is to, right? Les, just like hablas, les, comes, estudias, right? So this is a conceptual thing that will help us the more we practice with it, right? Okay, here's the IR verbs, right? So again, our category, our verb paradigm, singular on the left, plural on the right. Vivo, vives, vive, vivimos, vivís, viven, viven, right? So the only two differences is the nosotros and the vosotros forms, right? Some common verbs for IR verbs are asistir a. This is a fantastic verb to know. It does not mean assist. It does not mean assist. It means to attend. Yo asisto clases los lunes, miércoles y viernes. ¿Cuándo asistes clases? Yo asisto clases lunes, miércoles y viernes, right? Escribir, to write, recibir, to receive, vivir, to live, right? We can create some easy sentences. Mis amigos y yo no comemos en la cafetería. Or, mis amigos y yo comemos en la cafetería. Y ustedes, tú y tus amigos, ¿dónde comen ustedes? ¿Comen en la cafetería o en restaurantes? ¿Dónde comen? Yo típicamente como en mi oficina, right? I don't buy a lot of food here at the university. But anyway, you get the idea. So verbos de er, often grouped together because of the conjugation similarities, but still AR, ER, and IR verbs all get to the effect of what normally happens on a particular day, what's going on right now, and the near future, like yo hablo con mi profesor mañana. Yo vivo en Virginia. I'm living in Virginia. Okay, muy bien. Remember, concepts, guys. Concepts and categories is how your brains organize information. So the more we can funnel this and build it into a conceptual tree, the better we'll get. Okay, vamos a practicar. Okay, here we go. We have verbos de AR for this one. Ir, tener, and ser. These are verbs, high frequency verbs that we've practiced. We should continue to practice. En un día típico, yo blank a la universidad a las 9. So we have to choose, right? Look at our context. In a typical day, I blank to the university at 9. So would I return or arrive? I think while you could make a case for both, I think llegar, right? Llego a la universidad a las 9. Mis compañeros y yo pasamos la mañana en clase. Right? In clase, nosotros tocar or estudiar la gramática. What do? Do we touch the grammar or do we study the grammar? So what's our conjugation? Estudiamos. Yo blank muchos apuntes. So only read what you need. I something a lot of notes. Do I take notes or do I listen a lot of notes? Sí, take. Yo tomo. And porque el profesor Cruz said to be, she is muy exigente or she goes muy exigente. Exigente is like demanding, right? Es, of course. A las 11, yo blank a la clase de cultura. So I go to or work to, right? So remember, ir, probably the most used verb in all languages, movement toward, right? So yo voy a la clase de cultura. Ella blank mucho de la historia de España. She participates a lot in the history of Spain or she talks about it, right? Ella habla. What about tener and ser? Blank muy interesante. So it has very interesting or it is very interesting. Muy bien, es muy interesante. Por la tarde, normalmente blanco el rato con mis amigos or con amigos. So normally I spend a time with my friends or I look time with my friends. Spend, right? Paso. Muy bien. How'd you do? How are you getting this concept? Okay, una práctica más. So now we have verbos de er y er, isolated sentences. Conjugate the verb accordingly that's in parentheses. Yo blank a las clases los martes y jueves. So what does asistir mean again? And remember, it's not assist. So I attend. Yo asisto. Mis amigos leer 2 o 3 horas todos los días. Don't let this verb fool you. LE is the stem, so we still just add whatever the ending is, right? So it would be another E and an N. Mis amigos leen 2 o 3 horas todos los días. My friends are reading 2 or 3 hours a day. Vivir tú muy cerca de la universidad. A question. Do you live close to the university? I gave you two. There should be an accent there, I'm seeing. A little typo, but it's vives, right? Vives muy cerca de la universidad. We do not need to in this scenario. Nosotros blank comer en la cafetería. So nosotros comemos. Yo blank muchos mensajes de texto en clase. Recibo, right? Ellos blank muy bien a los profesores. Ellos comprenden. Muy bien. Yo blank aprender el español. Yo aprendo. I am learning or I learn Spanish. Muy bien, chicos. So how did you do? So remember, start telling yourself, building this category. AR, ER, IR verbs in the present tense can express what typically goes on, what is currently going on, and the near future. The conjugations are very similar for ER and IR verbs and a little bit different for AR verbs, but still within the same wheelhouse, right? So keep practicing these verbs in context as opposed to just trying to remember them. Think, say, write, read, watch on TV, different scenarios where you can pick out some verbs and listen and start to be able to do this on your own, right? Ok, chicos, gracias por mirar y avísame si tienen preguntas. Tell me if you have some questions. Hasta luego. Ciao.